following show is a paid program.
Hey family, how you doing today? I'm telling you, we've got the best of the best in the building with us. Mr. Vincent Victoria, Playwright. He's world renowned. I'm telling you, when you hear this story, you're going to love him just as much as I do. Hello, my friend.
Hello, good morning.
I'm telling you, we've been sitting here and we've been talking and we've been just chatting away, but you recreate historical moments on stage.
That is my motto of my company, Vincent Victoria Presents, recreating historical moments on stage, virtually, and in film. I like creating stories that haven't been told about African Americans. That is my motto. That is my goal.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you do it so passionately, my friend. Let's go back just a little bit. We were just talking earlier. We've had really a whole show just in our conversation. But let's go back and let's get started and let's talk about childhood.
Okay.
And how you grew up, because people need to know that part.
Sure. Well, I grew up on the north side of Houston, Acres Homes. But very interesting story. My mother gave me away when I was 2 weeks old. Wow. And I was raised by a very warm and welcoming family that brought me into their homes. And I was with them until they passed away. Wow. So I didn't meet my natural mother until I was 21 years old.
Wow. So you were premature. You were
premature. Mm-hmm.
You were in the hospital. We were talking about that. And your mom left you.
She did. But now she didn't, there was a nurse at the hospital and she said, I don't think I could keep this baby. And this nurse told her family member, and her family member took me in.
Really? Mm-hmm. And in doing that, what I loved about, and we were talking about your story, is that she named you, though.
She named Vincent Kyle Victoria. And she said she thought that was Vincent Victoria had a nice ring to it. Mm-hmm. And she literally named me before she gave me away and never saw me or heard from me again until I was 21.
Wow. How did the passion of acting or just being in front of a camera, how did that really just inspire you? How did you start?
Well, I was a TV kid, you could say. The TV was my friend because being an only child in that family,
right.
The TV kept me company for so long. So television, that's what inspired me. Mm-hmm. Carol Burnett, Lucille Ball, those are my heroes, growing up. Mm-hmm. So I was glued in front of a television. My mother didn't punish me by giving me a spanking or giving me a timeout, taking that television away from me. That was my punishment. So, that meant the world to me, that television.
Absolutely. I love that when you said that, because we all know, I've noticed y'all too, so I understand that it was something about looking at it, mm-hmm. seeing it, and actually being part of your life,
And magic happened on that screen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would just light up seeing those performers on that screen. I could say, and I said to myself, I can do that. Mm-hmm. I can do
mm-hmm. that. And looking at that and looking at your way and looking at how you got started, right? And then we look at other children now that may have that same concept. They're doing the same thing. Let's talk a little bit also to parents. Mm-hmm. What do parents need to do now? They may see that same inkling in the child's eye. They see them acting, they see them dancing, they see their creative side.
I would say to the parents, listen to your child, listen to what they want to do, mm-hmm. not what you want them to do.
Right.
Because the children have an instinct to say, I really want to do this, or I can do this. I have an aptitude to do this. Mm-hmm. So don't dismiss your child's urges and desires and their abilities, because they can lie dormant and the child may grow up be unhappy because they didn't follow what they really wanted to do.
Right. You're passionate about the history
yes.
of African Americans, our historical past.
For sure.
Let's talk about how did that come about our history?
Just when I was growing up, I loved reading history books about famous African American, not necessarily, not all African Americans, of course, but African Americans, because that is my culture.
Right.
So I grew up carrying around books of the stars, people would say. And I would always have a book about Lena Horne or Diana Ross, Rudolph Valentino, all of those people that fascinated me. So that's what got my interest in the beginning about historical people.
And looking at our history, what did you learn along the way with our history?
I learned that the struggle is still here.
Yeah.
We all had a struggle, even though we may say that, oh, this person had it easy. But if you read deep in between the lines, you'll find there was a struggle, and they're making it to where we think is the top. So that always, and I like telling stories about people that we've forgotten about or that we call now unsung. I like telling those stories the most.
Right. Especially for our young people that don't know.
Because those people had to really had to perform during the 1920s and 30s. You had to be a performer. You couldn't be a singer or what would you call a live internet star. That's what I'm trying to say. I couldn't get that word.
Absolutely. You couldn't be. Not at that time. We didn't have any of that.
You had to have talent.
You had to have talent. And then going through not only the struggle, but look at what they had to do to get on stage. They couldn't come through the front door.
No.
They had to go through the back. That many times they couldn't even be, they could do the performance and have to leave the whole building. They couldn't even be in the building.
That's exactly
a lot of those things that we forget that they had to do to give for us to stand on their shoulders.
And they would be in the finest of clothes, performing in front of the wealthiest of people, and still they had to go out of that back door. Lena Horne, Josephine Baker, people that I've written about, they had to face all of those humiliations.
And doing that, we forget. We forget that part. And we forget it's not that long ago.
And we think it's easy. It's easy, but no. 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
It was still going on.
It was still going on. And we have these people that we look at, we look up to, we see them, and they need to be celebrated. And that's what I love about you. You celebrate them. You give us that eye-opening part. You recently did, we were talking about some of them, the disappearance of Eartha Kitt.
And you gotta roll the R when you say Eartha Kitt.
Absolutely.
Because she was famous for her rolling and her precise diction, Eartha Kitt was. So just a fascinating woman, had a hard childhood as well. Her mother did not want her either. She was in the fields, the cotton fields of South Carolina. Her mother gave her away to family members. She was tossed around. She ended up in New York and became a legend in New York.
Wow.
But very hard childhood. And so I like writing about that.
Absolutely. And you talk about the time, about her life between 68 and 78. Let's talk about that piece. What happened?
Well, that was a time when Eartha Kitt was blacklisted in the United States because of her outspoken views about the war in Vietnam and about civil rights. She was very outspoken about that in a time where African American females should not have been or weren't allowed to be outspoken. But she let her voice be known at the White House in 1968. And she spoke up about the Vietnam War in front of First Lady Bird Johnson. And after the next day, she was a cause célèbre because she spoke out about it. And no sooner than later, she was blackballed in the United States, apparently by President Johnson. So from 68 until 78, Eartha Kitt, she was very seldom seen in the United States on stage or on film or on television. In Europe, she got work, but here she was blackballed. But in 1978, Jeffrey Holder, the famous Broadway choreographer and producer, invited her back to Broadway, and it's called Timbuktu.
Right.
And from 1978 until the time of her death in 2008, she didn't slow down. She didn't slow down.
But the power of those 10 years of what they've did to her through politics, right? Just showed
how much power people on top have and how much they can, if they want to, they can make you go away if they want to.
If they want to. And that was in 68 and also now. It just showed that power.
Yes, not too long ago.
Right.
Not too long.
There's another one that I love that you've done, Just Lena.
Just Lena, another forceful personality, the incredible Lena Horne. Again, she grew up in an unhappy childhood, raised by her grandparents, Mrs. Calhoun.
Yeah.
But she grew up in Brooklyn, and she didn't find her voice until much later on as well. 1978 must have been a good year because
Right.
that was the year. That was the year that Lena Horne came back in The Wiz. She had been away from movies for so long.
Right.
And the Wiz brought her back to the stage as well, brought her back to film. But Just Lena, we did that in 2019.
Right.
And it talked about her rise. Oh, it talked about her comeback on the Sanford and Son show. That's where the story began. That's where the play began, on Sanford and Son.
Right.
So,
wow.
but I just love doing those stories about those people.
And we cannot, we would be remiss if we didn't say Dream Girls Florence Ballard.
Dream Girl Deferred.
2020.
The most unsung member of the Supremes, I think. People say that she had the best voice of the Supremes. She had the strongest voice. She had the strongest personality. But because of Diana Ross and Berry Gordy, she was pushed to the side. She was pushed to the side. So it would have been easy for me to write about Diana Ross because Diana Ross is one of my favorite personalities and stars. But Florence Ballard is unsung, and I wanted her story out there.
Absolutely, and you did it during 2020. So
the early part of because it was, I wanted to do it on the anniversary of her passing in 2020.
Right.
And all of those anniversaries came about February. She died in February of 1976, and also she was married in February of that was when her anniversary was.
Right.
So I wanted to tie all of that in to anniversaries. I like doing shows on important dates. I don't do a show just any date. Like for instance, when I did the show about Booker T. Washington, I did it on the anniversary of him dining in the White House. So I like it. I like making points on when I stage a show.
I'm glad you brought that one up. It's upcoming, right?
Which one, Mr. Booker T at the door? Yes.
I'm glad you said that. The first African American who dines in the White House.
Yes.
I don't know that many people know that.
No, it was in 1901, and he was invited. He was the most important and respected black man of his era, and he was definitely worthy of being invited to the White House.
Wow.
So Theodore Roosevelt invited him in 1901. After that dinner, though, it caused a major outcry from the South. Why would you invite this black man to dine in the White House? They consider that our house. Sound familiar? Our house.
Yes.
So he received major pushback from dining in the White House, and he was never invited again to dine in the White House.
Wow.
Never invited again.
And that was 1901.
1901. And another black person wasn't invited to dine in the White House until 1927.
Really?
It took another 27 years because Theodore Roosevelt didn't want that pushback. Even though he was friendly towards Booker T. Washington, the pushback was so harsh, he never did it again. And no president ever did it again for 27 years.
Wow, that is something right there. In looking at your mission statement that I saw, and I love this part, you educate and enlighten the global community about African American culture.
Yes.
That's your goal.
It is my goal because our culture is so prevalent in the United States through jazz, through dance. Our culture is here, but we sometimes ignore it. We don't, but the mainstream society forgets about it, or they take it for granted.
Right.
So that's why I want to keep it out there, keep it to the forefront, that our culture is so important. Our culture has been so important to the United States and to the world.
Or they take it on and say they started it.
Yes.
And we have to give them the history of where it came from.
That's exactly right.
We were talking earlier about auditioning. And let's talk to some people about how to audition. I don't know that many people know when that casting call is there, what they need to bring with them. How do they need to present themselves? What impact or what is that person really looking for that's sitting across? We're not prepared, right?
Sure,
Many times.
I agree. So what you need to bring, first of all, is your authentic self, who you are. Who, if you're a wacky and zany person, bring that to the audition. If you're a quiet, studious person, bring that to the audition. Bring yourself to that audition. Not some fake self who you think people want to see. Bring who you are, whoever that is. There's room for who you are, not who you think they want to see.
Right.
Also, you need to be prepared for the audition. You can't go. You have to dress. You have to dress. You can't go in there sloppy or unkempt. They want to see a professional person. You have to bring your professionalism, of course,
Right.
but still bring your true self. Bring your true self.
Knowing who the character is you're going after is really something that's needed too.
That is important, and knowing that you fit that character as well, knowing that you can play that character. If you're 20 years old and they're asking you to come in and play Othello, you might not be right.
Right.
Knowing that you're not right for that role.
Right.
Knowing how you fit in industry, you have to know that. You have to know yourself. That's the most important thing, I would say. Knowing yourself.
Right. We had always talked about the fact that many times we come, again, unprepared. We need to professionally have photographs, professional photographs done.
That's exactly right. So a lot of times we'll take our selfies and think those are acceptable as headshots. They are not. You have to go. I would say go to a professional photographer who does actors' headshots, not wedding photos,
Right.
or someone who does big events. You need to go to a photographer who does headshots for actors. So that's the most important. Have a professional headshot done for yourself, so you can and present your best self when you're in that photo session.
Absolutely. What other things do we need on our? I know many of us have EPKs or electronic press kits, but some don't. But as far as your resume, what are they looking for your work? You know what I'm saying?
Sure. As a director, I'm looking for what type of work you've done, what type of roles you've done. Have you done comedic roles? Have you done dramatic roles? That tells me what you're suited to or what you like doing.
Right.
That helps me. Training is important as well, where you've trained or who are the people that you've taken acting classes from. So those are the most important things. And if you haven't done a lot, put on what you have done.
Right.
What your skills are. Can you yodel? Can you tap dance? Those are important things. Even if you haven't had a lot of acting experience, I may put you in a show because you put down you can tap dance. I may incorporate a tap dance in the show.
Right. You had said something very pivotal earlier when we were talking, is that sometimes people come in, maybe they're not right for that performance, but you have another performance, or another director or producer that's doing something else that may fit this person.
So I would say that go in as yourself. Be your true self. Be your authentic self. And like for instance, I had an audition this past Sunday, and some people were very good, but they weren't right for this particular show that I'm doing. But I'm going to remember them next time because they came in, they brought who they were, they were strong in it, and I remember them. I'll use them for another project that I may have coming up.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you said that, because sometimes we get disappointed that we get, turned down, or we feel like a failure or something like that. We feel like we were really good for that one, right? And we should have been for that one. But like you said, there are other projects.
There are always other projects. I'm always creating. Other producers and directors are always creating in town. So don't feel discouraged. Even if I didn't cast you, a lot of the actors that I work with, sometimes they think, oh, Vincent didn't cast me this time. It's not because I don't like you and I don't like working with you. It's like you were just not right for this particular role. I still love you.
Right.
And I'm going to hire you again.
Right.
As soon as I get a role for you, as soon as I write a role for you, you'll be back working with me. So it's don't be discouraged at all. You just got to keep pounding. You got to keep coming to auditions.
Absolutely. We'll be right back on The Cam Hill Show.
We'll be right back to The Cam Hill Show after these messages.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Amazing things for you.
Experience the pinnacle of performance at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $369 a month, or the new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $449 a month, or the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection for only $509 a month, all for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
When you shop Ron Carter, Cadillac.com.
Oh boy. I'm going old school on his butt.
Let's play a game. I'm a savage.
Come on.
Whoa. Hey, I let him still attached. Ooh, everybody right.
I got it. Ooh. She got me.
Classy, bougie, ratchet.
Granny's out here having a martini at halftime.
Haters gonna hate.
Space Jam, July 16th. And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey family, we're back with Mr. Vincent Victoria. Man, we're just talking about some things. Just when somebody decides, we were talking about this, and they're getting ready to audition, there's some things that they need to know that they may not know at all. Let's talk about that.
Sure. For instance, when you generally when you go into an audition, they're going to want you to slate your name first. So slating means saying who you are and what role that you're auditioning for, and if you're doing a monologue, saying what monologue that I'm doing and where this monologue is from. That's so important. Also knowing where your mark is. Sometimes they'll say, hit your mark. There'll be an X. And just knowing those show business terms that you need to know. So a lot of times when you're getting into the business, you don't know. But someone has to tell you these things. You have to learn these things on your own, or go to classes that will tell you these things. But a lot of times, we as African Americans, we don't have those opportunities a lot of times to or know where to go to get that information.
Absolutely.
So it's very important when you go into an audition. Sometimes you can win an audition just by saying your name. If you say it strongly and confidently, you'll get the part right there.
Wow, because they're looking for the voice. Many times people are just looking for the voice or the look.
Exactly.
Things like that. That's good.
And if you present it well and you sell it, you may get that part. You may not even have said a line from your monologue or the side that you've been given.
Now, what I loved about you is that you said on one of them, a young lady came, and it wasn't even written in. It was just like she was going to appear.
She was referred to, yes.
Yeah.
It was in my show, Mr. Booker T at the Door, about Booker T. Washington. And this character was referred to. Her name was Martha Pye, and she was this country girl that was one of Booker T. Washington's young daughter's friends. And she was just referred to a country girl. And this girl came in, I'm going to give her a plug, her name is Ember Skies. And she came in, and I said, wow, that is this character. She came in, she was being her authentic self. She was that character. And I said, I'm writing this character, I'm giving this person lines.
And she had no lines at first. The character.
She was just referred to.
She was just being referred to. Wow.
So it can happen. So if you come in as yourself may be, your true self may get you a part.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to present yourself. If you dance, come in dancing. Maybe I'll incorporate that into the show. So that's so important.
Plays are different than film.
Sure. We had to make that transition earlier this year. My play Block Shitty was made into a film earlier this year, and what I found, it's much longer. The hours are so much longer in doing a film.
Yeah.
And I'm used to being hands-on. I'm used to getting in there and helping the actors out. But in film, it takes so much more, so much more time to do that.
Right.
And
and coming from plays to film is a difference.
For sure.
Yeah.
We've had to learn to modulate our voices. Learning that you can do it, you can make a mistake and we can do it over again. Whereas on stage, you keep going.
Yeah.
There's no stopping.
It's no stopping.
At all. But on film, you could, I don't want too many takes, but you can retake it over if you feel that your take wasn't good enough.
Right.
Or you can do it better.
And then you, directing and writing or so, you have to write it different because you have to, it's not the same.
Exactly.
As the play in the film.
The writing is more concise, and you don't have to give as much detail. Let the film give the detail and the words much less. So it was had to go through a quick learning curve,
right,
to do that. And we shot this film in only 10 days.
Wow, really?
A full feature film in 10 days. Here in Houston at the Midtown Arts Center, right here in Houston. We transformed the space into a bordello, an apartment, Harlem apartment, a barbershop, all in one space. So it can be done.
It can be done. It can be done here in Houston. So, and we were also talking about the fact as far as films or, well, going back to plays, COVID happened. You had to immediately change. Let's talk about that change.
So Vincent Victoria Presents, we never stopped producing work. Even though we couldn't be on stage, we went to virtual performances immediately. After our last show ended, Dream Girl deferred, we went into rehearsals for our virtual show, The Disappearance of Eartha Kitt. We didn't want our momentum of our good works to stop. So we did 7 virtual shows during the height of COVID.
Wow. So people could actually see it during this time.
Yes, we always had a product for our audience. So we went on, it was through Zoom, through the Zoom format, and we presented our show. We rehearsed for about 3 weeks on Zoom in front of our webcams, in our bathrooms, in our living rooms, in our cars.
Each person is at home, each person, well, in their own space, I should say. They're in their own space.
They rehearsed at home, and we had dress rehearsals at home, and we did it live. It was not recorded until the last one. So everything was live like we are right now.
Right, absolutely. Something that I loved about you is that you kept going. Why so?
I would have been bored out of my gourd not being creative. I couldn't have existed without doing something creative. So I said, okay, this is my last virtual show. But then I'll get an idea. I said, no, I've got to do another one. It's just that passion to do things creatively.
And then virtual versus live audience.
Virtual was harder because we're sitting in front of a camera that whole time. We really can't move. Whereas on the stage, you can do blocking, but we're glued in front of that camera. But it's more, you have to be more focused because you have to present your camera, your character to that camera, and you have to be in that character, just like you have to be in that character on stage. So I think it requires more of a focus virtually.
Wow, yeah. And then, but in doing virtual, the part of virtual that you did, you still gave the people interaction. They needed that.
We had after each virtual show, we had a talk back like we do in each of our live shows. So we allowed the audience to come in and ask us questions about like you're doing, how was it doing it virtually? How did you learn your lines? Was it different? The same question that you're asking me, we got those same questions from the audience. And sometimes the audience even came in and we had, during intermission, they would come in and play games with us. We had people moderating games, theater games, virtually. So we didn't slack up at all.
The good part about it is that you didn't slack up and that you did give people consistent showings, things that they could actually look at, especially during a COVID depression.
And I may say also, Cam, that we did quality work. I didn't let the actors, they weren't reading their script. They had to be off book to participate in our virtual shows.
Wow.
Some of the virtual shows you would have seen, people you could tell they were looking at their script or they weren't dedicated. They weren't taking it seriously. It was mandatory that my actors took it seriously and they were off book. They could not be reading from the script.
Made it very clear on that one. I understand that. Let's talk about the business and the creativity. Creativity is 10%, but there's a huge 90% of business. People are actually getting paid during this part, right?
For sure.
The business side, we're not represented many times.
Sure. A lot of times we first of all, the business side includes in what you wear, what you have to wear. That's important. You have good clothes to wear.
Right.
Have have one good outfit that if I don't have anything else, if I'm not going to look good in anything else, I'm going to look good in this. So investing in your outfit, your clothes, investing in your headshots. That's an important investment. That's a part of your business. Your headshot. Your resume, building that resume, going to classes. That's part of the business side of it. Having a good website, having a good social media presence, that's part of the business. And presenting that well, not just having a lot of frivolous things on your business website or business social media page. Of course, you can have your own personal one, but for your business, it needs to be professional and present you as you want to be presented professionally as an actor.
Right. I'm glad you said that about social media, because once you get the resume, you look at everything.
People, because I'll go into somebody's Facebook page, or if I don't know them, I'll look and see who this person is, how they look, what their photographs or what they're talking about. If they're talking about foolishness, that gives you an insight into that person a little bit. So it's important for your business social media to be up to snuff.
Absolutely. Websites. Yes. That's good to know that part.
Definitely have to. Websites tell us what you've done, where you've done it, and if you have your actor's reel, it gives us an insight of, sometimes we can't see you in person, but if you have your reel on your Facebook page or your website, we can see what you've done, see the kind of work that you've done, to see the kind of roles that you excel in. So that's important to have a good website up.
Absolutely.
And investing in that website.
Acting, actors classes.
Yes.
Taking the classes, investing in yourself.
Sure. You want to go to a class that you think that you need the skill. You say if you're not too well versed in comedic acting, you want to take a comedic acting class. Or if you want to get better in improv, take an improv class. Something that you're not good, that you're not as that is not your strength. For me, dance was not my strength ever in life. So taking dance class was important for me. All actors should take voice classes. Voice and diction, how to project. That's so important. Any actor should take that.
Presentation.
For sure.
Is such a we lack on that quite a bit sometimes. How we present our present self, how we present ourselves.
I think in this hip hop generation, we've become a little more casual, but in the days gone past, like, in our parents' generation, they always dressed to impress.
They did.
Always. And they wouldn't let you go out of the house without being.
That's going to the store.
Right, exactly. You wouldn't go to the store in rollers or
none of that. No.
But it is a different time. So we can be, you can go to the store and what do you want to go to.
But if you're presenting yourself and trying to become, getting a part.
For sure. You need to go in there, something business casual, I would say. You have to go in there at least. Don't go in there with your pants sagging or a tie is important. But not all roles, but just nice, something nice.
Right, absolutely.
Something nice.
I'm glad we're saying that. The other part of that is that just helping us understand, just along the way, what is it that and even in film, the same thing, when you're going out for a role. No, not just plays, but just film and everything, you need to have a presentation. You need to look.
And present I'm going back to that. Present your authentic self.
Right.
That's what we're looking for, and the camera can catch that if you're being authentic or if you're not. If you're just making up if you're just trying to be somebody that you're not. Always be yourself, but be your best self though. be your best self, not your worst self. We
Right.
all have our worst self, but when you go and be your best self, whatever that is.
What I loved about you, and we were talking earlier, you were at one point just wanting to be in front of the camera, but you found your best being behind it. Let's talk about that.
Sure. I still do. I still like being that ham on stage. I love that. I love that. But I found that I could reach a larger audience, and my true purpose is as a writer and as a director, because I can present the stories how I think they should be told, or how I think they need to be told. As a performer, you're telling someone else's story.
Yes.
But as a playwright, you get to mold that story how you want it to be and how you think it should be best represented. But I never wanted to write. But in high school, my English teacher said, "Vincent, you should write." Oh, I never wanted to write, but it's come back to me that I should have been writing longer.
These stories that are coming to you, and you like, as you were saying, as a child, you were walking around with all of the books and magazines and things like that, different prints that you had that really depict celebrities at the time in your day, and now they've come back as the history.
Yes.
Right.
And because I read so much about them during when I was younger, their stories, they just come back. They automatically come back to me. I knew when this person was born, or I knew when this person passed away. I knew when they did this, because I read so much about them. That was my education on these celebrities back then. So now I can reel out things off the top of my head. Not so much recent celebrities. This younger generation, I'm not as well versed on these particular celebrities, but from celebrities from 80 on back, I know about those people.
Absolutely. And we saw them so on film. They were such a part of our lives and things like that. And now to look at them at this time, and just to see the times, and just to be able to celebrate them. So many are unsung, and we talked about that.
And the good thing is there's a record of them on film. A lot of those performers. I'm reading a book now about the Nicholas brothers, how talented those two brothers were, the amazing things that they could do dancing in films. But you hear about Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, but you very seldom hear about the Nicholas brothers.
Yes.
But I think they were more talented than those Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. The things that they could do, Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire weren't doing those things in film.
Absolutely. And but I'm glad that you're looking at that and bringing that up, because that's history for us all. We need that, especially young people that didn't have that opportunity to see these icons, really.
For sure.
On TV, even now.
And you really had to be talented to make it to the upper rungs of show business then. Now, not so much. You can get away with being a Facebook star now, or a YouTube star, but then you had to have a true and authentic talent that they could see, and then that the audience could see, because it was harder for us during that time.
Absolutely.
To get to the top.
Absolutely. What do you see now that's needed the most? And we've been talking about it, but young people, as we're going forward, okay? Yes, we see our history, and yes, the young people see us because they didn't have the opportunity to see that. What do you see now that we need to do going forward? It's 2021, now we're going forward.
What I think that we need now is education about the past, education about the struggles. The struggle hasn't ended, of course, but the struggles and what it took to make it, the steps that they had to take. These people trained. People think you don't have to train, but they did train, and hard and real training, not just just something that you find offline. So education, training is so important, and how they made it to the top. That's what we need.
Absolutely. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back on the Cam Hill Show.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Amazing things for you.
Experience the pinnacle of performance at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $369 a month, or the new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $449 a month, or the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection for only $509 a month, all for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
When you shop Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
Yeah. Oh boy. I'm going old school on his butt.
Let's play a game. I'm a savage.
Come on.
Whoa.
Hey, anyway, I let haters still attached. Ooh, everybody right, but
I got it.
Ooh,
She got me.
classy, bougie, ratchet.
Granny's out here having a martini at halftime.
Haters gonna hate.
I'm a
Space
savage.
Jam,
Yeah.
July 16th. And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, thank you so much, family. I'm just sitting here having a great time with Vincent, Victoria. We're just talking, and we were just talking. We're talking about the fact about the presentation, what people will do. We've talked about what people need. We talked about what's going forward. Now that we're coming out of 2021, we've gone through the pandemic, and it seems like, I mean, we're still under it. We still have some issues with the pandemic, but just people wanting to come out. It's been a year and a half or so that people have been in, and they're starving for entertainment or some type of entertainment, media, something. Let's talk to those people.
So first, you could always come to our shows.
Yes.
At Vincent Victoria Presents, because we have a full season of shows recreating historical moments on stage. So for instance, we're starting our season with something a little different. I'm doing a show called The Storm Is Here. It's about one of the insurrectionists, January 6th. So it's a little different for me, but still historical. It's a very important moment. And I'm also doing a show called Starring Cherry Cola Pitts, which will be portrayed by myself. And it's a satire of 50s game shows. And what would it have been like for an African-American man to host a game show uninhibited during that time? Say, if, for instance, what if Lil Nas X could be in 1950 doing what he does?
Right.
So that's what, so you can always see product from us. And we pride ourselves on doing quality work. Even though we may not have a big budget, I insist on my actors doing quality work on stage and in film.
Going back to the first one that you spoke about, let's talk about that, and let's talk a little bit about what it is.
Sure. Well, we all know what happened on January 6th. These people were trying to overthrow the government or trying to overthrow the election. And one of the ladies that was killed in that insurrection, her name was Ashley Babbitt. And when I saw that day, that story when I write a story, it has to inspire me. It touches me. So something hit a spark with me that day about her.
Right.
Why was she there? Why was she killed that day? Why did she go there?
Right.
And I found out she was a big Trump supporter. But before that, she voted for Obama twice. But then she was converted. She was radicalized and became a Trump supporter. So I thought that was so fascinating. And I ended up looking at her videos on YouTube and her Facebook page. So I said, this is a story. I've got to write this story. So that's how that came about. It's called The Storm Is Here. And that's one of the slogans of the QAnon followers. So that's where the title came from. The storm is here.
Wow. And just to go back and see that, see the White House taken over like that. How did that affect you when you saw it? Literally seeing that live.
Couldn't believe it. And I think, we're getting ready to be overthrown,
in 2021.
Yes. And it was an unbelievable sight to see all those people going into the White House, taking over senators and congressmen's desks, putting their feet up on their desk. And it was an amazing and scary sight to see, seeing congressmen hiding behind chairs and desks, barricading their doors. So something that you would think that would never happen in the United States, and it did happen.
It did happen. Wow. And for you to write about that and to see her life, let's go back a little bit just about her life. What really, that part inspired you, but when you look back at her life, her voting for Obama twice, and then being radicalized, like you said, through Trump.
When I was writing her, it's so easy to write about the radicalization, but I've tried to make her human in sometimes it's hard, but trying to find the human side of this person,
right?
Who she was as a person, not just as a political activist, or
right.
So that's what I try to find in any of the characters that I'm writing about. What's their human side, not their celebrity side? What made them human? What touched people?
What touched people?
And what little thing that I could find out about her life that would make her human.
I love the way you said you look back at Facebook, right?
Yes.
You look back at social media, and just to realize who a person is, just going back through all of the things that someone has done or been through.
And sometimes people hold that against us about things that we post on Facebook, but realize that is not the whole picture. That was a moment in time of that person. That may not be that person now. Right. Things that I posted 13 years ago on Facebook, because things that I did on Facebook, I was doing little videos, comedic videos. I wouldn't dare do those things now. I'm not that same person. So you really can't, that's just a snapshot of who that person was then. But we want to make sure those snapshots can stand the test of time and still hold some aspect of who ourselves are later down the road.
Right, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. So sometimes we have to go back and clean them up.
Right.
We might have to delete some.
That's right.
Might have to delete some things now.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. If you, while we're talking about this, what would you like for people to know about Vincent Victoria?
That he never gives up. That he has never given up. He's persistent. If I get something in my mind that I want to do, I'm not going to stop until it is done. If I want to do it, people say you can't write about this person. When you tell me that I can't do it, I am going to do it. I am going to do it. People think the subjects that I write about, people think I'm crazy, but I never give up. That's what I want them to know, that I never give up. People. When I first started out, people said you're good you'd be better behind the scenes or as something that's not creative. I said, I'll show you that I am creative.
Look into the camera and let's give
which camera
right here.
Okay.
And we're going to give people last words to the viewers.
So viewers, I would say, believe in yourself. Believe in what your talent is. What your talent is. Your talent is special. You can do things that nobody else can do. Just discover your particular talent, whether it is skateboarding, whether it is singing, whether it is acting. Your true self will make you a star. Be a star where you are.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Mr. Vincent Victoria.
Thank you.
We have had a great time. I appreciate you. First of all, I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to see these icons, right, in such a great light. So many were unsung.
Yes.
Thank you for just giving us or enlightening us and sharing their history.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's good for it's my passion presenting these stories. I I'll die writing stories. They'll see Vince was writing another story about somebody else.
Exactly. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers, for the Cam Hill Show, 12:30, 1:30 Central Standard Time. See you then. Bye.